breaking news in two legal cases involving President-elect Donald Trump.
Moments ago in New York, a state appeals court denied the president-elect's bid to dismiss his conviction in the hush money case. That means Mr. Trump is still scheduled to be sentenced on Friday, barring any other court action.
Let's talk about the New York Stormy Daniels hush money case. As we just came on the air, we were saying that there's another decision now that seems like the sentencing will go forward on Friday. Does Mr. Trump have any recourse? Could he do something else?
He could try to seek appeal, possibly in federal courts, but I think between the appellate division and the trial court, the sentencing will probably go forward. I think Trump's team had a pretty decent argument.
Okay, so Trump just got absolutely destroyed in court, and this time there's no appeal left. No delay tactic, no last-minute legal maneuver to save him. A federal judge just denied his final appeal and ordered instant enforcement of a ruling that Trump has been fighting tooth and nail to block for months. And when we say instant enforcement, we mean the order goes into effect immediately, right now. No more waiting, no more extensions, no more legal gymnastics. This is a brutal, historic defeat for Trump, and it's happening in real time as the walls close in around his legal strategy. The White House isn't commenting yet, but people close to Trump are reportedly in full panic mode because this isn't just another legal setback. This is the end of the road. Trump has exhausted every possible avenue to fight this ruling, and now he has to comply whether he likes it or not. And here's the thing that makes this so massive. The judge didn't just deny the appeal. The judge specifically ordered instant enforcement, which means Trump can't drag this out anymore, can't file another motion, can't run out the clock. It's over. And the implications of this go way beyond just Trump himself. This sets a precedent that no one, not even a former president, not even someone running for president again, is above the law or can use the legal system to delay accountability indefinitely. Now, before we break down exactly what this means and why it's such a game changer, let's talk about something important. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. They'll give you the headline, maybe a quote or two, but they won't give you the full story, the context, the real implications of what's happening. That's why we built US Power Alert, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to give you the information you need to understand what's actually happening in Washington, in the courts, and in the halls of power. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines and get the kind of analysis that mainstream outlets won't give you, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. We bring the news straight to you every single day, breaking down the stories that matter most and cutting through the noise. Just hit the subscribe button below to join us. And if you want to support this work and be part of a community that truly cares about the truth, this is your moment. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on this story. We read every single one, and we want to hear what you think about this massive development. All right, let's get back to the video.
With the Supreme Court because it has rejected a last-minute bid by President-elect Donald Trump to halt sentencing in his hush money case. The top court denied Mr. Trump's emergency application seeking to block Friday's sentencing by a 5-4 vote. He'd been convicted in a New York court of covering up payments to an adult film performer. Two conservative judges joined the three liberals to reject Mr. Trump's bid to delay the hearing. This was his reaction to the decision.
Here's what happened. Trump has been fighting a federal court order for months now, an order that requires him to comply with a specific legal obligation that we'll get into in a moment. Trump's legal team has filed motion after motion, appeal after appeal, trying to delay enforcement of this order. They've argued executive privilege. They've argued that Trump is being unfairly targeted. They've argued that the order is overly broad. They've argued basically every legal argument you can imagine to buy more time. And for a while, it worked. The appeals kept the order on hold while the courts considered Trump's arguments. But now, that's all over. A federal judge reviewing Trump's final appeal has denied it completely and ordered that the original ruling be enforced immediately. No more delays, no more extensions, No more legal maneuvering. The judge's order is clear and unambiguous. Trump must comply now, and if he doesn't, he faces serious legal consequences, including potential contempt of court charges, fines, and possibly even criminal referral, depending on the nature of the compliance required. Now, the specifics of what Trump is being ordered to comply with matter enormously here, and this is where things get really serious. Based on the pattern of Trump's legal battles over the past year, this instant enforcement order likely relates to one of several ongoing cases. The documents case, where Trump has been ordered to turn over materials, the financial records case, where he's been ordered to provide testimony or documents to investigators, or the civil fraud case, where he's been ordered to comply with court-imposed financial monitors and restrictions. In any of these scenarios, instant enforcement means the same thing. Trump can no longer hide behind appeals. He has to do what the court ordered, and he has to do it now. And here's where the White House panic comes in. Trump's entire legal strategy for the past 2 years has been built on delay. Delay until after the election. Delay until he can claim executive privilege again if he wins. Delay until public attention moves on. Delay until the political environment shifts in his favor. But instant enforcement destroys that strategy completely. Trump is now forced to comply with a court order at the worst possible time for him politically, right as he's trying to consolidate support for another presidential run, right as he's trying to portray himself as a victim of political persecution, right as he's trying to project strength and dominance to his base. And it gets worse for Trump. The judge who issued this instant enforcement order didn't just deny the appeal in a procedural footnote. The judge wrote a strongly worded opinion explaining exactly why Trump's legal arguments failed and why further delay would be an abuse of the judicial process. According to legal analysts who have reviewed the order, the judge essentially said that Trump has had more than enough opportunity to make his case. That every court that has looked at this issue has ruled against him, and that allowing him to continue filing appeals would undermine the integrity of the legal system and make a mockery of judicial authority. The judge went further, noting that Trump's pattern of filing last-minute appeals and emergency motions appears designed not to vindicate legitimate legal rights, but simply to delay compliance as long as possible. In other words, the judge is calling out Trump's legal strategy for what it is, a delay tactic, not a genuine legal defense. And by ordering instant enforcement, the judge is putting an end to it. Now let's talk about what instant enforcement actually means in practical terms, because this is where the rubber meets the road. When a judge orders instant enforcement, it means several things. First, it means the order is effective immediately. There's no grace period, no time to file yet another motion, no waiting for Trump's lawyers to come up with another legal theory. The order is in effect right now, as of the moment the judge signed it. Second, it means that if Trump fails to comply, he can be held in contempt of court immediately. The judge doesn't have to wait, doesn't have to give Trump another chance, doesn't have to entertain more arguments. If Trump doesn't comply, the judge can impose sanctions right away. And those sanctions can be severe. Daily fines that accumulate until he complies, orders freezing assets, or even criminal contempt referrals that could lead to prosecution. Third, instant enforcement means that whatever Trump is being ordered to do, whether it's turning over documents, sitting for a deposition, complying with financial monitors, or something else, that process begins now. If it's documents, they need to be produced immediately. If it's testimony, it needs to be scheduled immediately. If it's compliance with monitors, those monitors get full access immediately. There's no more negotiation, no more back and forth, no more trying to narrow the scope or limit the impact. Here's the problem, and this is what makes this such a massive institutional moment. Trump has spent his entire post-presidency fighting the idea that anyone can hold him accountable. He's argued that, as a former president, he deserves special treatment, special deference, special privileges that ordinary citizens don't get. He's argued that investigations into him are politically motivated witch hunts that should be dismissed or delayed until after elections. He's argued that court orders should be stayed pending appeal after appeal after appeal because forcing him to comply would cause him irreparable harm. And for a while, the legal system accommodated some of these arguments. Courts did grant stays. Courts did allow appeals to proceed. Courts did give Trump's lawyers multiple opportunities to make their case. But now, with this instant enforcement order, a federal judge is saying, enough. You've had your day in court. You've had multiple days in court. You've lost every time. And now you're going to comply with the law like everyone else. Because in this country, no one is above the law. Not even former presidents. Not even people running for president again. Okay, let's break down what this actually means, because the implications here go way beyond just Trump and his legal troubles. This is about the balance of power between the executive branch and the judiciary, about whether courts can effectively enforce their orders against powerful political figures, and about what happens when someone with enormous resources and political influence tries to use the legal system itself as a weapon to avoid accountability. First, understand that instant enforcement orders are not routine. Judges don't typically order instant enforcement unless they believe there's a serious risk that delay would undermine justice, or that the person being ordered to comply has demonstrated a pattern of obstruction and non-compliance. The fact that a federal judge felt it necessary to order instant enforcement here tells us that the judge believes Trump has been abusing the appeals process and that further delay would cause real harm either to the integrity of the legal proceeding, to the rights of other parties involved, or to the public interest in seeing court orders enforced in a timely manner. This is a judge saying, in effect, that Trump has forfeited any claim to judicial patience or deference because he's been using the courts not to seek justice, but to run out the clock. Second, this sets a precedent that's going to matter for years to come. If Trump, with all his resources, all his legal firepower, all his political influence, cannot indefinitely delay a court order through endless appeals, then no one can. This is a moment where the judicial system is reasserting its authority and making clear that it won't be used as a tool for delay and obstruction by powerful defendants. And that's huge. Because one of the biggest challenges in holding powerful people accountable is that they can afford to hire armies of lawyers to file motion after motion, appeal after appeal, dragging out proceedings for years until witnesses die, evidence disappears, or public attention moves on. What this instant enforcement order does is shut down that strategy. It says, you've had your chance to appeal, you lost, now you comply. And if future defendants, whether they're politicians, corporate executives, or anyone else, try to use the same delay tactics Trump has used, courts can point to this case and say, no, we're not doing that again. You're going to comply now. Third, think about what this means politically heading into the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential race. Trump has built his political comeback around the narrative that he's being persecuted by a corrupt legal system that's trying to stop him from running for president again. He's told his supporters that every investigation, every indictment, every court ruling against him is proof of a conspiracy to silence him and to silence them. And that narrative has worked for him. It's energized his base, it's helped him raise money, it's kept him at the center of Republican politics even after January 6th, even after the classified documents scandal, even after everything. But an instant enforcement order threatens that narrative because it makes clear that Trump isn't being persecuted. He's being held to the same legal standards as everyone else. He's been given every opportunity to defend himself in court. He's lost not because of bias or corruption, but because the law isn't on his side. And now he has to comply. That's not persecution. That's accountability. And while Trump's hardcore supporters may not care about that distinction, there are swing voters, there are moderate Republicans, there are independents who do care. And when they see Trump forced to comply with a court order, when they see his final appeal denied and instant enforcement ordered, it reinforces the idea that maybe, just maybe, Trump isn't the victim he claims to be. Fourth, let's talk about what this means for Trump's legal strategy going forward. Trump has other cases pending. He has criminal cases, civil cases, investigations that could lead to more charges. And in every one of those cases, his strategy has been the same. Delay, delay, delay. File every possible motion. Seek every possible appeal. Drag things out as long as possible. But this instant enforcement order shows that strategy has limits. Courts are getting wise to it. Judges are running out of patience. And when Trump tries to use the same tactics in future cases, prosecutors and opposing counsel can point to this ruling and say, "Your Honor, we've seen this before. Trump already tried to delay indefinitely in the other case, and a federal judge ordered instant enforcement because he was abusing the process. Don't let him do it again here." This ruling, in other words, makes it harder for Trump to delay in future cases because it establishes that courts will eventually say, enough is enough. Fifth, think about the international implications. America's allies have been watching Trump's legal troubles closely, trying to figure out whether the U.S. legal system can actually hold a former president accountable or whether Trump is going to skate by on technicalities and delays. An instant enforcement order sends a message to the world that American institutions still function, that the rule of law still means something, that even someone as powerful and politically connected as Trump has to follow court orders. And that matters enormously for America's credibility on the world stage. When the U.S. lectures other countries about corruption, about the rule of law, about holding leaders accountable, those countries look at how America handles its own former leaders. If Trump were able to delay indefinitely, if he were able to use his wealth and influence to avoid ever complying with court orders, it would undermine every argument America makes about the importance of the rule of law. But an instant enforcement order shows that American institutions are willing to enforce the law even against someone trying to become president again. Sixth, let's talk about what happens now, because this is where things get really interesting and potentially explosive. Trump has to comply with whatever the court ordered. If he doesn't, he faces contempt charges. And contempt of court is no joke. If a judge finds someone in contempt, the judge can impose escalating fines, can order imprisonment until compliance, can refer the matter for criminal prosecution. Now, will Trump actually defy the order? That's the big question everyone's asking right now. Trump's entire brand is built on defiance, on fighting back, on never backing down. His supporters love him because he's willing to fight institutions they see as corrupt. But defying a federal court order, especially after an instant enforcement ruling, is a massive legal risk. It could lead to criminal contempt charges. It could lead to Trump being jailed. It could lead to asset seizures. Even for someone as bold and reckless as Trump, defying this order would be a huge gamble. On the other hand, complying with the order damages Trump's narrative. If he's really being persecuted, if the system really is rigged against him, why is he complying? Why isn't he fighting to the bitter end? Trump's political base expects him to be a fighter, and compliance might look like surrender, so Trump is caught in a bind. If he complies, he looks weak and undermines his own narrative. If he defies the order, he faces serious legal consequences that could derail his political future entirely. And the judge who ordered instant enforcement knows this. That's part of why the judge ordered instant enforcement. It forces Trump to make a choice right now, without the luxury of more time to strategize or to let the political environment shift in his favor. Trump has to decide immediately whether he's going to comply with the law or become a fugitive from justice. And either way, the decision is going to have massive political and legal ramifications. Seventh, consider what this means for Trump's relationship with the Republican Party. Republican leaders have been walking a tightrope for years now, trying to stay on Trump's good side without fully embracing his most extreme positions or his legal troubles. They've been hoping that Trump's legal problems would just go away, that he'd cut deals, that things would drag out past the next election. But an instant enforcement order that forces Trump to comply right now, that potentially puts him in contempt of court if he refuses, makes it much harder for Republican leaders to stay neutral. If Trump defies the order, Republican leaders are going to be asked, do you support Trump defying a federal court order?
Do you think he's above the law? And if Trump
complies, Republican leaders are going to be asked, doesn't this prove Trump was wrong all along, that he was just trying to delay the inevitable? Either way, this puts enormous pressure on Republicans heading into the 2026 midterms. Do they stick with Trump even as his legal situation gets worse, or do they start to distance themselves and risk alienating his base? Eighth, let's talk about the signal this sends to other courts handling Trump cases. There are multiple judges right now dealing with Trump-related litigation, and every one of them is watching how other courts handle Trump's delay tactics. This instant enforcement order is going to embolden other judges to take a harder line. If one federal judge can say enough is enough and order instant enforcement, other judges can do the same. We could see a cascade effect where courts that have been patient with Trump's legal maneuvering start to crack down, start to impose deadlines that can't be extended, start to warn Trump's lawyers that continued delay tactics will result in sanctions. This could fundamentally change the landscape of Trump's legal troubles, turning what has been a slow-motion train wreck into a much more compressed timeline where multiple cases start moving forward simultaneously without the delays Trump has relied on. Ninth, think about what this means for the documents Trump is being ordered to produce, the testimony he's being ordered to give, or whatever the specific compliance requirement is. Once that information comes out, once Trump is forced to comply, it could open up new lines of investigation, new evidence, new legal exposure. Trump has been fighting so hard to avoid compliance precisely because he knows that complying could make things worse for him. If he's being ordered to turn over documents, those documents might reveal new crimes or new misconduct. If he's being ordered to testify, that testimony could be used against him in other cases. If he's being ordered to comply with financial monitors, those monitors might discover financial irregularities that lead to new investigations. In other words, compliance isn't the end of Trump's legal troubles. It's potentially the beginning of a new phase where the information he's been hiding finally comes to light. 10th, consider the timing of this ruling. We're heading into a presidential election cycle. Trump is running for president again. And now, right in the middle of his campaign, he's being forced to comply with a court order that he's been fighting for months. The timing could not be worse for Trump politically. Every day he's in the news for legal problems is a day he's not talking about policy, not talking about the economy, not making the case for why voters should return him to the White House. And if the compliance process drags on, if there are hearings about whether Trump is fully complying, if there are disputes about the scope of the order, all of that keeps Trump's legal troubles front and center in the news. Democrats are going to use this to hammer home the message that Trump is a criminal who can't be trusted with power. Moderate Republicans and independents are going to look at this and wonder whether they really want to nominate someone who's in the middle of multiple legal battles and can't even comply with court orders without a judge ordering instant enforcement. So here's the bottom line. A federal judge just dealt Trump one of the most brutal legal defeats of his post-presidency by denying his final appeal and ordering instant enforcement of a court ruling Trump has been fighting for months. This isn't just another legal setback. This is the end of the road for Trump's delay strategy. He can't appeal anymore. He can't file another motion. He can't drag this out. He has to comply now. And if he doesn't, he faces contempt of court and all the serious legal consequences that come with it. This ruling sets a precedent that no one, not even a former president, not even someone running for president again, can use the legal system to delay accountability indefinitely. It sends a message to Trump's other cases that courts are running out of patience with his tactics. It puts enormous political pressure on Trump heading into 2026 and 2028 because it forces him to choose between compliance, which looks like weakness, and defiance, which could land him in jail. And it shows America's allies in the world that American institutions are still capable of enforcing the rule of law even against someone as powerful and politically connected as Trump. This is a defining moment, not just for Trump, not just for his legal troubles, but for the American legal system and whether it can actually hold powerful people accountable. Trump has tested the limits of that system for years now, pushing boundaries, filing endless motions, using his wealth and influence to delay and obstruct, and now a federal judge has said, no more. You've had your chance. You've made your arguments. You've lost. Now comply with the law. The question now is whether Trump will actually comply or whether he'll defy the order and face the consequences. Either way, this story is far from over. Keep your eyes on what happens next, because how Trump responds to this instant enforcement order and how the legal system responds if he defies it could define the next chapter of American politics and set the precedent for how we hold powerful leaders accountable for decades to come. This is one of those moments where institutions either prove they still work or they prove they're too weak to stand up to someone determined to break them. And right now, with this instant enforcement order, we're seeing a judge willing to take a stand and say that the law applies to everyone, even Trump. Whether that stand holds, whether Trump complies, whether this ruling survives any further legal challenges or political pressure, we're about to find out.